But yeah, but this guy right here, man, he's a host, he's a producer, he's a brand ambassador, and overall, he's just a great black man out here doing great fatherly things out here in the community, you know what I'm saying, taking care of children, making sure they good, making sure they eating right.
My children, though.
Your children.
Yeah, we not out here just
not everybody
on anybody's.
Your children.
But we do love the community.
We do love the community.
You feel what I'm saying?
We got Rodney in the building, y'all. Everybody clap it up, clap it up, clap it up, clap it up.
Yeah.
Hey, how you doing, my man?
I'm good. We was just talking about we was talking about my son, man. You got to put me in an emotional spot. You know what I'm saying? My boy wish me happy Father's Day this shit. I'm reliving that right now.
That's tough, right, man. You got to tell your son to pivot.
Did he wish you a happy birthday this year?
He did wish me a happy birthday this year. So
that's good.
But you can't. We have to emphasize the importance of Father's Day, man. We really do need to do that.
Absolutely.
See, if you a petty dad, get him back on Christmas.
But remember that Father's Day?
You know what his Father's Day, what his Christmas gift is for this year? I told him if he had good grades, he could say, "Fuck you, Dad."
That's funny. That's funny.
This little arrogant SOB has straight A's right now. I said, "Oh, you really trying to
He killing it."
So you must have saw that in his eyes. He wanted to say that one day. So he said, "I'm gonna give you your gift."
I'm gonna try it.
A great boss, a great leader knows how to motivate people within his company and infrastructure.
Absolutely.
I knew his motivation.
Look, you gotta hold your word though, because my dad did that for me. He lied though. I remember 3rd grade. I wanted Thug Life because I love Tupac. I wanted it tatted. He said, "If you get straight A's and your brother gets straight A's, you'll get it." I got straight A's. My brother didn't, and he used that against me. I knew. You were like, but I got it. I get it. Like,
No. Didn't meet the requirements.
But man, yeah, like I said, thank you for coming on, bro. Like I said, I know we've been trying to connect for a minute, so I'm glad we could connect on Boss Talk and really chop it up because you posted something a couple weeks ago, and you were talking about pivoting. You were talking about how people, they like to put you in a certain category and say, you the guy that does this, and when they see you doing something else, like, what you doing? Like, I'm pivoting. I'm making moves how I need to make moves in my life. And we resonated with us because we did a Power of the Pivot episode early on Boss Talk, maybe like the first year we started Boss Talk. So I was like, I think it's time for part 2. Like, it's time for part 2. Let's refresh people's memories and talk about the power of pivoting. And so that's what we'll be doing, Power of the Pivot, part 2. But first, I want to jump into just a little bit of your backstory for the people who don't know you. Well, whatever you want to jump in, it don't have to be long. However long you want it to be.
Condensed.
Yeah, do your thing.
From Jersey, born and raised, and I started.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Jersey's
I'm playing with you.
We're never gonna allow Jersey slander. I stand on that. Fist can't fly.
Fist can't fly. See, that's that Jersey coming out.
I can't. You know what? I thought I got rid of it, but it's very much in me.
I'm gonna tell you, like, chill, because if fist fly, I'm first. So chill out.
I'm gonna have to shove and dive.
All right.
I've already strategized.
Cool.
But I went to North Carolina A&T State University.
A&T?
Yeah, Aggie Pride. And after college, man, when I went back to Jersey, I realized that there was like a huge hole in the creative community. And so I created this traveling artistic series called the Heart Gallery Things We Love, and it was a smorgasbord of artistic expression. At the core of it was live music, live instrumentation. We would bring artists to perform. We had Ari Lennox, Jesse Boykins III, Emily King, Bridget Kelly, Maroof. I mean, it was a crazy list of people that just came through. And people would come and sell clothing and candles and all kinds of stuff as well. It was like Love Jones, you know what I'm saying, but with like a flea market.
That's dope.
It was amazing, and it turned into a phenomenon. And one day, serendipitously, somebody came in and said, "Yo, we think you're a really good host. In addition to this event being dope." And they wound up referring me to host 106 in Park. Nice. So I ended up hosting 106 in Park for like, a month and a half or whatever. And from there, man, was
that during the time they were just like they were rotating?
Yeah, this was like Pageon. This is after Terrence and Roxy. Yeah, so I was on that joint. They ended up choosing Bow Wow over me. You know what I'm saying? Because I was too tall to stand next to the ladies. I'm 6'2", Bow Wow 5'2". You know what I'm saying? Camera, how cameras work.
I get it.
You know what I mean?
I get it.
And then from there, man, I just kept moving and being like water in this industry, primarily as a television host, but ultimately I started the path of being a television host with the expectation that it would help me leverage other opportunities, acting, writing, storytelling, producing.
Yeah.
And so I moved to LA 5 years ago to do just that.
Nice, brother.
That's a cool origin story.
Yeah, no, it's great.
If you were a superhero.
This nigga had that shit ready. He was at home in the mirror like, all right, so I'm gonna use the word serendipitously.
Man, the elevator pitch is important. In LA, it really is some shit. I've had to figure out how to like
That's true.
Give me the 15-second elevator pitch, man. It's tough.
Like a lot of people say for the culture, but you actually were doing it. Like
Yeah.
you created
Yeah.
something for your city that was a void, and then you got to go on something that was a cultural phenomenon. 106 and Park. Like that's very cool.
That's dope. I was gonna say, within the power of pivoting, I feel like there's a lot of self-assessing that you have to do. A lot of self awareness you have to have. Like, have you always had self-awareness like that, or that's something you had to develop over the years of working in the industry and doing things like that?
Nah, I've always been extremely self-aware. I feel like the environment that I grew up in, it doesn't allow you to have too big of a head. Bright lights where I'm from get snuffed out very early on, and there were a lot of friends of mine who were so much more talented, so much more powerful than I am, and I saw them lose their lives literally very early on. And so I had to figure out how to throttle my energy. But you had to be self-aware in order to know, like, yo, I'm shining too bright right now. I'm in a room full of wolves. Let me chill out.
Got you.
Or this room is a little dim. It could use a little more energy. So I've always been extremely tapped in and self-aware. And my mom did a great job of like instilling in me the idea and understanding of spirit. So I was always very in tune with spirit as well.
Do you have a moment?
Before
go ahead.
we go back to that, you mentioned the tweet. Can you tell us what the tweet was?
Oh yeah,
that inspired this episode.
Yeah, you said. Matter of fact, let me go straight to your page real quick.
Ignore all the Knicks slander from the I hate the Knicks.
I hate the Knicks.
Who's your team?
So I worked for the Wizards for 5 years. So I have some allegiance there, but I grew up a Nets fan and a Lakers supporter.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I'm a Heat fan. I'm from Miami.
Oh yeah. Okay. Love that for you.
You said
John Wall going to the Heat. I don't like that.
So you said so. As a picture of you on the beach with camera equipment with some folks doing some things. He said, "Let's talk about pivoting for a second. Some people think it's an abandonment of Plan A or a concession of self-belief, but the truth is, pivoting is a means to cover more ground and to give yourself additional opportunity to achieve the ultimate success, which of course is peace, happiness, and freedom. Anybody who hoops knows that a good pivot will free you up from clutter, blockage, and congestion so that you can gain a better line of vision or pathway towards a goal. So now, in addition to being one of the best television hosts, excluding nobody, I can also help you conceptualize, write, produce, direct, execute, and act in anything you need, from unscripted to features. Love." It was beautiful.
Damn, I wrote that.
It was beautiful.
And that was a good basketball analogy.
It was beautiful. So I guess we can just go. What made you want to write that? Like what was going through your mind at that moment when you was writing that?
Yeah, I think that sometimes we get in our own head and we really think that people think about what we be doing. And and I think that because I've started to really show the rest of the tools in my arsenal, that people are like, oh, he trying to do everything. He think he can touch everything. And so, like, honestly, that's really some insecure shit because I'm over explaining, for the purpose of trying to avoid judgment and criticism. While I do want to market my business, I have to find more comfortability in just saying who I am without worrying about the backlash or somebody saying something negative about it. But it was important for me. We did a campaign with Nike and Blavity, and that's a really big deal. I started my production company last year, my production ideation company, Lately Early Productions, last year. And so in year one, to be able to produce a spot for Nike and Blavity was really powerful for me. And I wanted to just figure out the best way to show people that, hey, I'm also doing this now. But don't forget that I also do this thing over here, and I'm trying to marry it to the best of my ability.
I think what it is, we forget sometimes that people didn't see us from the ground up. They see the tree, they ain't seen the seed. Facts. You know what I'm saying? So like a lot of times people would be like, well, why your tree going everywhere? Why you doing? But you don't know from the seed. As soon as I planted it, I was like, all right, well, I'm gonna produce, I'm gonna do music, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do whatever I can to create and leave my legacy on this earth. And people just for some reason it's like I think we just I was talking with his aunt about it last week. Like we just talk about how us as creators and black men especially, like we we feel so afraid to like fly, like kind of.
People look at pivoting as like failure, but I look at it as an opportunity. It's like it's just a new avenue way to get there instead of just going the route that you planned. That's why they say God laughs at our plans.
Absolutely.
We think we doing this way, and He got this whole other plan, this whole other route for us. So all those people, I think, just insecure. They scared to try.
Yeah.
Like they looking at him doing what they want to do, but they don't have the guts to do. So
it's a really it's an insane thing to wrap your mind around, that people feel like they can do anything that they want. And if you're not comfortable with that idea, that notion, you're gonna be like, yo fam, you can't host you can't do all of these things. You have to pick one, bro. Like what you mean you work for Hennessy, fam? Like it's just too much for people to consume sometimes. And I've grown very self-aware and self-conscious about it. Like, oh, people think that I'm like a try hard. And I'm just like, you know, I listened to Kanye growing up. When you try hard, it's when you die hard. And I never wanted to come off like that.
I think Jay Shetty said it best. I believe I'm trying to remember exactly, but it's somewhere along the lines of, he was like, you can't be anything you want, but you can be everything you are. And I was like, that's such a bar. It's such a bar. You know what I'm saying?
That's a powerful message.
I was like, that's a, because that you like, oh, well, that just make you feel like, okay, if it's already in me, you know, then that's just a sign of like, when you start doing certain things, you start getting excited. I feel like that's your sign, like, I could pivot in this area and be successful in it. If it's not exciting to you, I don't think that desire, that fire ain't in it. You know what I'm saying? So it's different. You know what I'm saying? So for you, what would you say your first pivot moment was, like, either recently or in the past, that you were like, when you recognized the power to pivot?
When I first moved to LA about over 4 years ago now, I didn't have a job. I just came out here because I had kind of hit a glass ceiling in New York. And then I quickly got blessed with a show on Revolt. And then right after that, Hennessy hits me up and was like, hey, we have this role open, you know, would you be interested? And the role was being a key account manager in the city of Los Angeles. And I really it's a great job, great paying position. It gave me keys to the city really early on. But it was really tough for me to present myself in that role because I knew that Hennessy is such an iconic brand that it would overshadow my works. And I don't have any equity. I'm not invested in Hennessy, right? Like I don't get any ROI on what the bottles do. Like so for me, it's a really tough thing for me to work for a brand that kind of takes away from the legacy that I felt like I began to build. But that was the first time that I was like, I gotta figure out how to make money, but not like working at a restaurant as a server or something out here in LA. To make things work, because again, I became a father at 22, so I've always had to be a provider, always.
I think when you follow your purpose too, things fall in place. So it's like you decide to move out here, no job. I don't know how spiritual you are, but I'm like, God got you. And presented you all these opportunities that you were able to take advantage of and not go work at the restaurant.
Yeah, for sure.
So
I'm not designed to fail. I know that. Like if I can release the apprehension of fear that exists in my body from trying new things, then I'm always going to be okay. I've never lost.
I really like the way you put that. I'm not designed to fail. I don't think I've heard it said in that way, and I like that. I'm not designed to fail, because we not. When you think about it, we were designed for abundance in life. You know what I'm saying? We're going to have hardships.
Yeah, for sure.
Great. But we're not designed to fail. So
you don't get in our way, we get in our way.
Yeah, that's 1,000%. For sure. For sure. This is what I was gonna say. When you just said you became a father at 22, that was technically like your first pivot. Like in a sense, pivot. You know what I'm saying? Like
I was wilding. I was living life on the edge.
I feel you. I feel you. That's definitely a pivot, because you have to slow down. Now you got to pivot to thinking about somebody else. You know what I'm saying? I guess I could kind of go into like, how do you think being a father affects those certain pivots that you make? You know what I'm saying? Because you have to think about, all right, I got a son, or I got to make sure if I do pivot, is this the right pivot? You know what I'm saying?
This is you can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
Well, my son was born and conceived in Atlanta, and I was down there living foul, just tripping.
What year were you in Atlanta?
You know what? 2006, 2008.
Oh yeah, that's exactly when we got there.
We were right there with you.
I'm a hit squad guy.
I'm
in his. I grew up in his squad, like in
that's
Jersey.
Hilarious. That life is funny.
So
we probably
was all in your party snapping.
Probably. So like literally Corey and we all grew up together. But
Wow.
So I moved from Atlanta back to Jersey to get a job. I started working at Verizon Telecom in a call center. Just because my father worked at Verizon as like a construction worker guy, and he was like, "Yo, this is da-da-da." And the process of becoming a father was so difficult for me, man. Like, I did not know my son's mom. We were never in a relationship. We never dated. We never went on a date.
Yeah.
It wasn't a one night stand, but over the course of like 5 months, we had decided to take the condom off and get the raw draws.
Yeah, get the raw draws. I get it. I get it.
Insane. What was I thinking?
Now you think back, you're like, what was I doing?
What was I doing?
You were 22, man.
Yeah,
you were 22 in Atlanta.
Yeah.
There's a lot of butt there.
So I that's a fact. Bro.
That's a fact.
And I met her playing wingman. Anyway, it's just like, God damn, why you had the? And he got out early in the game. Anyway, it was really tough to have a child with this woman who I did not know, who came from a different cultural background than I. She's Jamaican, like first generation.
Okay.
And so she's very different than me. She sees the world very differently than I do. And so the first really not until too long ago, we butt heads on everything. Like, I was in out of court fighting for the ability to just see my son.
Gotcha.
And at 24 years old, I finally had to come to the realization of how to understand other people's perspectives. Now, this sounds crazy. This might be wild, and I don't mean to talk long, but I had to learn or try to understand what was at the core of this woman having such disdain for me. Like, why was I going through this strife? I went to court. She accused me of child molestation, kidnapping. It got vicious.
Oh, it got
vicious,
dog. Sheesh.
And so I'm like, yo, like, what happened? Like, what is going on here? Because we're not emotionally invested in each other.
Yeah.
And at the core of it, she had a love for our son.
Yeah.
Right? And so I was able to be like, all right, you know what? It's not a personal attack, even though she's attacking me personally. Really, she's protecting her cub. And if all of this stuff is rooted in love for our child, then I can come to an understanding and figure out how to work within this chaos.
Yeah.
And that, at 24, to come to that realization, to step back and lose my ego for the purpose of that, because she had me by the nuts. You know what I mean? You ain't got no control over this shit.
Yeah, for sure.
It changed everything.
Okay.
It changed everything for me.
Yeah, that's a pivot.
Yeah,
that was a major.
That's a mental pivot. Yeah. That's a mental pivot. I kind of want to talk about, like, so when making pivots, right? There's two answers. There's yes or no. You know what I'm saying? There's a yes, I'm gonna do this. No, I'm gonna do this. And I think we've talked about this in this podcast before. It's just like the importance of being able to be a decision maker. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's a big thing, because a lot of people are very in between, very on the fence, very like, I'm not sure. But those aren't the people who get it done. The people who get it done are the decision makers. You know what I'm saying? So like, what helps you make decisions? Do you look at certain factors? Like, well, what helps make you make certain decisions in situations? Man,
honestly, I've always felt like I have had a pretty good discernment. I know, like, I'm tapped in. And it sounds, if you're not tapped in, it might sound crazy. But when you're tapped in, you just know. Like, you know certain things. Like, oh, I'm supposed to do that. I'm supposed to be here. I'm supposed to leave this event early. I'm supposed, you know what I mean? Like, I know. I just know. And that's what I'm led by. It's not me. I don't have like some definitive strategic calculation process. I just, if my spirit reacts positively to it,
then you're with it.
I'm with it.